This video serves as an introduction to CSC 1180, which is the first C++ programming class that you'll take at UVA-Wise. My name is David Frazier, and I'll be the instructor for this class. Most of you, well, about half of you at least, had me last semester for Python. The other half did not. So if you've had me before, you may have initial little bit of an advantage about how things work, but things are changing for everyone, so it shouldn't be a big deal, okay? So in this introductory video, hopefully you'll watch this before the semester starts. Um, I'm going to go over some of the differences between Python and C++, things to look out for. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about how the class is going to be structured. Okay, so I think that will be some useful information to get us going. Okay, so let's start with looking at the differences between Python and C++. Okay, so the first difference, I think, is the biggest thing that you'll see right away is that the spacing no longer matters in C++ as it did in Python. In Python, you had to line everything up just exactly, or it would give an error message. C++ doesn't do that. That being said, it still is a good idea to space out your programs, just like we've been doing, because it makes it more readable, easier for you to see. Okay. And because we don't have that spacing in C++, every line has to end in a semicolon. Okay, so we'll have to get used to that as well. Okay. When we do our block structures, and I'll show you an example of this in a minute. Well, let's just go ahead and pop up the example, actually. I think that makes the most sense. So let me share this screen here. Okay. So here we are in the Hello World program that probably doesn't make a lot of sense to you yet, but it will. Okay. So here's one of the other differences as far as how we're going to do things in class. It's that we're not using any kind of a graphical environment. Okay. In fact, we're using a text-based environment on a Linux server. Okay. So as I was talking about, here are the lines that we have. Each one ends in a semicolon. Okay. So that's a difference for us. Okay. The spacing here, again, the editor that I'm going to recommend that we use will automatically do it. But I mean, you don't have to. If I do that, it's still okay. It's not going to give us an error message. Okay. The other thing is that blocks, where before we would have a colon at the end of a line and everything that was indented over would be part of that block structure in C++, that's accomplished with an opening and closing of the curly braces. Okay. So something else new for us is that the variables in Python are able to change around. I could say something like name is equal to Bob, that were in quotes. And then I could say on the next line, although I would need my semicolon since we're in another world. Notice the editor didn't take me back to the new line there. Then I could say name is equal to 5. In Python, that's okay. So it's a loosely typed language. C++ is not. C++ is a strongly typed language. Okay. So I would have to first declare a variable, say something like string name first. Then I could say name equals Bob, and I would be okay. I couldn't say name equals 5, though. That would be an error. So that'll be different. Okay. There's a pro and a con there. I think in general, it's a better idea to have variables not changing type, but it will trip us up every now and again. Okay. C++ is a compiled language. So we create the program here, and then instead of just running it in Google Colab or in something else we may have used, we're going to have to compile it into an executable program. We then run the executable program. I'll have a separate video on how to do all that. Okay. It also means that if you're going to run a program, we're doing it on a Linux server, but if you wanted to run it on a Windows server or Windows computer or a Mac or something else, you would have to recompile it every time. Okay. So where a Python program will work in any computer that has a Python interpreter, a C++ executable file is made for a particular operating system. Okay. Some other things is that C++ offers direct memory access that we'll probably get to at the end of this class. We will certainly get to it in data structures. Okay. And every C++ program starts with a main function if you want to run it. There are supplemental programs that you have that you may include in that don't run on their own. But if you're going to run a program, it has to have this int main. Okay. And then it has to have this return 0 at the end. Okay. And that's it within the curly brackets here. So all of your main program will be here. This is a function. Okay. It's the main function. You can have other functions as well. Okay. So as far as how we turn in programs in C++, there's not really any turning in. We're going to be creating these programs on the server. The first day of class, we'll go through and set up a directory where you will put your programs. To grade them, I have what's called root access, which means I can get into all the directories. I will go and see your program and I can grade it right there, the results of which will go into Canvas. Okay, so with no exceptions that I can think of, but there always could be, everything will be done on the server. You turn it in by completing it. When the assignment's done, I will go and grade everyone's, and whatever's there is what I will grade. Okay. So as far as how the class is going to work, it's going to work similar as to the Python class worked, in that during the class time that we have together, it's primarily going to be you working on programs, and I'll be there, and hopefully we'll have a student helper again that you can ask questions, okay, to get it going. Okay. Unlike last time, I guess kind of like we did toward the end, the homework problems, or the what you're going to be graded on, is going to be these in-class assignments, which means I give the assignment at the beginning of class and it has to be done by the end of class. Now we're on Tuesday, Thursday, so a little longer class, but it still means that you need to arrive in class ready to go, which means do whatever readings assigned out of the textbook and watch whatever video I release. Okay. If you go to look for a video and it's not there, let me know. Sometimes I forget to link it up correctly. Okay. But you should be ready to go when class starts. Okay. So in class, we will go through the program, or you will do the program, and I will answer any questions you have, go over things on the board if we need to, whatever we need to do. Okay. There are sometimes there are going to be homework problems that we'll look at. These could be longer term projects, could be a group project, could be something a little bigger. Okay. So keep an eye out for those. Those will be different. Those you'll have more time on. Okay. Um, when you go, when you're done with your program, put it this way, I want to make sure that your program should compile, which means it doesn't have any obvious syntax errors. It doesn't have to work to get credit, but it should compile. If it doesn't compile, the best you can get is 5 out of 10. Okay. So if it does compile, then you'll get up to 10, depending on how well it does whatever the assignment is. Okay. So I think that's important. And you really want to ask questions in class. Okay. So these in-class programs will be worth half of your final grade. Okay. An additional 20% will be on various homework problems. I will probably, most classes, after we do the in-class assignment, I will give you a couple other programs that you can work on if you want. These are optional. I'm not going to grade them, but it will help you to to gain skills. Okay. And on those, if you want to ask questions about them, you certainly can. If you want me to do a video of them, that's fine. I mean, that's the other thing. If you haven't had me before, if there's a homework problem that confuses you, you're not sure how it should work, I will happily make a video on any of those after the program has been due. Okay. So another 10% of the class then is going to be on lab. Okay. So like, again, if you have me in Python, the labs will mostly be on Zoom. But this time I had some complaints from students that people were not very engaged in labs. Some people weren't. So this time I'm going to say that all participants in the lab on Zoom have to have their cameras on. If this is an undue hardship for you, let me know. We'll talk about it. But in general, I want your cameras on and I want you engaged. So during the lab, I will go around, in addition to answering any questions you have, I will go around from room to room. We'll do it in breakout rooms. And I want to see you guys discussing the problems and working on things together. That's the whole point of that project, okay, of having labs, okay? So I think that's it for the most part. Again, there'll be a separate video where where I will talk about the mechanics of getting onto the server and changing your password, creating a directory, creating a file, compiling it, testing it, all that stuff. Okay. But for now, this is just the basic overview. Again, the first day of class, we'll go over the syllabus in more detail, and we'll go ahead and get everybody set up on the server. I've already created accounts for you, but we'll log in, all that stuff, get your directory set up, and we'll probably do our first program on that day. Okay. We're still a couple of weeks, week and a half, something like that, off from Class is starting. I think it's a week and a half. So in the meantime, if you want to send me an email, do so. That'd be great. I'd like to hear from you. Anyway, if you have any other questions, make sure that you let me know.